what did you mean by that?
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no,
Hello everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about actress Rachel Zegler and the so-called controversy surrounding the Snow White live-action remake from Disney, and whether the perceived outrage is justified or just over the top. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware what's going on surrounding this issue, but just in case there's anybody who doesn't know, to quickly recap over the timeline of events. Now, some years ago now, Disney announced its plans from a live-action adaptation of the classic Snow White animated movie from 1937, where actress Rachel Zegler was announced and cast in the lead role as the character. This sparked debate as Rachel is of Latina and Colombian origin and has much more of a tanned skin as opposed to the original character, who was very much of a white skin. The phrase itself in keeping that Snow White being white as snow. It brought up the issue once more of race-swapping iconic characters, and we saw something similar with the casting of black actress Hailey Bailey in the lead role as Ariel in the recent Little Mermaid remake. Now, things got really elevated when, during an interview in September 2022 at a Disney D23 Expo, when standing alongside Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen in the movie, Rachel spoke about the original film from 1937, making reference to how old the movie is, and then she talked about how they'll interpret the character and how this version isn't going to be a damsel in distress, how she's not going to be saved by the prince or thinking about true love, she'll be much more of a leader. She spoke of the original Prince Charming character and talked of him as a guy who literally stalks Snow White, and that part of the story was weird, and that they wouldn't be doing that version this time round. So it was really this interview that sparked most of the outrage, especially on social media, where certainly over the last year or so there's been hundreds of videos and tweets and articles on Rachel and her comments, resembling to an extent the controversial outrage around Brie Larson and the comments she made about 40-year-old white dudes, and this was all during the build-up to the release of Captain Marvel. So whilst there's been other talking points surrounding the live-action Snow White remake, regarding the makeup of the dwarfs, whether CGI should be used or not, certain statements made by Peter Dinklage, we'll stick to the original question of whether this backlash towards Rachel is justified or over the top. Now, whilst on the one hand I would say that it has been over the top and a bit extreme, I can also understand to an extent some of the reason for the criticism. Now, where we are currently in pop culture and entertainment, just the mere fact that this is a Disney movie will always get backlash, as will the fact that an iconic character is being race swapped, and the fact also that yet again we are seeing a remake of another beloved animated movie. So there was always going to be antagonism before even Rachel said a single word. But I do have to say that Rachel's comments, especially from the interview, certainly didn't help matters. Whenever you're promoting a remake or a reboot of a classic original, what you must do is pay respect to the original source. Even if you haven't seen it or read it, at least show some acknowledgement of the film's relevance and understand how much it's resonated with an audience. This is the easiest way to at least get on side with the original fanbase. Now, what you mustn't do is risk alienating them by disrespecting the original source material, and to an extent, I do feel that Rachel did this by certainly talking down to the original, especially with the comments made about Prince Charming being a stalker. That sort of idea clearly wasn't suggested in the original film, so why draw that association with it now? So whilst Rachel didn't completely lambast the original, anybody from the outside looking in certainly would have felt that she was being condescending or looking down on the movie in some way, shape or form. Now, comments like this will certainly turn the original fans against you, which isn't very smart given that these remakes are very much about relying on the original fans. Even if Rachel believes in what she says, she could have shown a bit more PR savvy by saying something that's both complimentary and not being inflammatory or provocative. That's how you play the game in terms of media promotion and marketing. You have to try and be as inoffensive as possible to the fan base that you are hoping will support your material. She could have easily avoided this by saying something along the lines of that she hasn't seen the original, or she could have said something along the lines of they want to do something different, but they fully understand the importance of the original and that they will do their best to pay proper respect to it. So I do think her comments were a bit of media inexperience on her part. But then we look at the other side of the argument, and was the backlash over the top? And I think, to be honest, I think it is too much. For all of Rachel's misguided comments, she doesn't deserve this level of scrutiny or hatred that we've certainly seen online. At the end of the day, she hasn't personally attacked anybody, she didn't steal from anyone, there was no racial or discriminative use in terms of her language. Her comments certainly weren't as alienating as Brie Larson's statements, but I do think she did certainly provoke a large demographic of the audience that go to watch comic book movies. And looking at what Rachel said, I still don't think it's really deserving of the multitude of videos being made against her, especially when it's a direction that's really being chosen by the filmmakers and Disney themselves. They're the ones who've decided to take this in a different direction. The decision to make Snow White less of a damsel and more of a leader is made by them. Rachel is just acting the role and following their instruction. Now, maybe an actress who's been more experienced and has a bit more clout might have a bit more input in the role, but Rachel Zegler is just bursting onto the scene. So of course she's going to be far more agreeable with the filmmakers, and being cast in a lead role of a big budget Disney movie is a massive opportunity. So she's not going to say anything to rock the boat. So if you're really unhappy with the direction being taken from this film, I think more criticism should be showed at Disney themselves rather than Rachel. And we also understand that in today's culture, there are many of those who will look to amplify any perceived drama or outrage. They won't necessarily have any investment in Snow White itself. They probably won't have an idea of who Rachel Zegler is. But when they see the intention from the backlash, they'll simply jump on it, and we'll see a huge wave of multiple tweets and videos, and a lot of this will be from people who have very little interest in the project. And unfortunately, as we all know, the algorithm regarding the social media platforms reward negativity, outrage and drama, and that's the situation that we are currently in. Any actor or actress coming out with certain statements or certain opinions is always going to get a backlash. But a lot of this is not necessarily because people disagree with what the actor is saying. More of it is just because they want to get attention for their own platform on social media. And that's just an unfortunate way of things in life, how we stand today. But despite all of that, I still don't think Rachel is deserving of quite the intense negativity that we are certainly seeing. And just referring back to the movie itself, we just add to the current update that the movie has been pushed back to 2025 for release. I do think that's largely due to the ongoing actor strike. With the actors not being able to do any promotion, this in itself will cause the delay in the production of the film. I think also the backlash mentioned over the dwarfs themselves and how they're going to be presented, whether smaller people will be cast or whether CGI will be used. We've had previous issues of photos being released online, and there's been a constant debate as to whether they are genuine or not. I think that Disney have seen the negative traction and had decided to take a step back in order to revise and change their approach. And to be honest, I think this is probably the sensible option, especially when we look at the underperformance of The Little Mermaid. Now, whilst making over $600 million, is certainly nothing to be sniffed at when you look at the previous live action remakes, which all made over $1 billion at the box office. I do think Disney will be concerned to make sure they don't have another flop on their hands. But all of that is for future discussion. But in regards to the original question, I do think whilst Rachel's comments didn't help, I certainly don't think that the backlash is worthy or warranted than what we have seen aimed towards her online. So there's my overall thoughts and feelings when looking at the recent controversy and discussion over Rachel Zegler and the live action Snow White remake. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you'd like to see me cover more topics like this or review any other movies or television series, then also let me know within the comments and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on those topics within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves and I will see you very, very soon.